The views expressed on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast are that of Jerry Cahill and guests, and not necessarily those of the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Nothing on the Jerry Cahill CF podcast should be considered medical advice. Such advice can only be given by a physician who is experienced with cystic fibrosis. The Boomer Esiason Foundation, Jerry Cahill and guests cannot be held responsible for any damage which may result from using the information on this podcast without the permission of your medical doctor.
Welcome to Jerry Cahill's Living, Breathing, Succeeding podcast series. This show, being a mom of a teenager with cystic fibrosis, was made possible through an unrestricted educational grant from Genentech to the Boomer Esiason Foundation. Today you'll meet Jenn Caruso, who is a working mom of a 16-year-old boy, Michael, with cystic fibrosis. She is a passionate advocate and through the years has raised significant funds and awareness for cystic fibrosis.
Hi, my name is Jenn Caruso, and I am married and have a child with cystic fibrosis and 2 additional stepkids. I work full-time in the pharmaceutical industry, and in my spare time I like to do some advocacy for cystic fibrosis, as well as fundraising for CF. And then personally, I like to spend some time exercising and running, and when I do get a little bit of free time, a spa is always nice. Michael being diagnosed with cystic fibrosis absolutely has impacted the family and the way we raised Michael. Maybe a little too protective at times because you're just afraid of the unknown. But overall, I would say that we try to lead a very normal life. We treat every day as a gift, and we try to make memories and build family events that we're all very close and can look back on. We never discouraged Michael from going after his dreams or playing sports or anything like that. So while we tried to live a very normal life, there was definitely some disruption of the impact of cystic fibrosis and how it affects our lives. So when Michael first questioned having cystic fibrosis, he was about 3.5, 4 years old in the bathtub, and he looked up at me and he said, "Mom, why do I have to do breathing treatments? Why do I have to take all these pills? And my cousin doesn't, or my friend doesn't." And that was our first real conversation where I realized, wow, he's starting to pick up on that things are a little bit different for him. It's a very tough conversation to have with someone so young, and you try and bring it down to their level and explain, this is something you were born with and things are going to be okay. We just have to do a little bit extra to make sure that you're going to be okay. And then you evolve into the teenage years where the disease becomes really real, and and he starts realizing there's a life expectancy, what no cure really means, and those conversations are really, really hard to have. I know in one conversation I had with Michael, shortly after a conversation about life expectancy, he said to me, "Mom, do you know what my biggest fear is?" And I said, "Well, is it losing your battle to cystic fibrosis?" And he said, "No, it's dying without ever knowing what regular childhood should feel like." And to me, that really hit home and really sort of lit a fire to say, gosh, I have to do something to make sure he knows exactly what a regular adulthood's gonna be like. So transitioning to adult care for Michael is something as a parent I'm very nervous about because I've been so involved for so long, and to just turn it over and to kind of take a back seat is very nerve-wracking. So I think that what Michael and I are doing together is, now in appointments, instead of me answering all the questions, Michael's answering the questions. And I'm there to add input if needed and really watch him learn how to take ownership of these appointments and his care. I feel like I'll always be there for Michael when he needs me. And, if he's 50 years old in the hospital and he wants Mom to spend the night, I'll absolutely be there. So trying to manage a full-time career in the pharmaceutical industry and managing a disease like cystic fibrosis for my son has definitely been a challenge. I've been blessed enough to work for an organization that has supported me. I have the flexibility, if you will, to work from Michael's bedside at the hospital in my position, and to be able to balance both worlds. And I'm blessed for that and thankful. Having a disease like cystic fibrosis with Michael in the house is really stressful and very emotional at times. So having a really strong support system, I think, is key. And the one thing that has kept me and Michael together and strong and going forward every day, getting involved in advocacy, having the strength to talk about the disease, really comes from our support system. So, we thank every single person that has gotten involved in this fight with us. So the support system for myself, of course, is my husband. He he's, Michael's stepfather, and he's jumped into this battle willingly, which is amazing. My parents are 100% beside me every step of the way, and I couldn't do what I do without the three of them. And then there's our extended family and friends that in their own way have supported us, whether it's a simple text or reach out when Michael's in the hospital or supporting a walk or a run. Everyone has really put their arms around us and helped us through this battle. So for parents of newly diagnosed children of cystic fibrosis, I think my biggest advice is just breathe. And I know that sounds kind of cliche in a way, but things are going to be okay. There's so many different medicines out there now and so much coming down the pipeline for us to be excited about. For me, I started pretty young with Michael of having him take ownership of his disease. So I would encourage people to get involved or have your child be involved in their own care very early. And I think my biggest piece of advice for any parent out there with any disease similar to cystic fibrosis or other terminal diseases like this, it would be to make sure you take the time to care for yourself. I mean, for me personally, for many years I didn't do that, and I've learned from that, and I wound up gaining a lot of weight and not really caring for myself, and I was in a spot that I wasn't healthy anymore. And so, over the last 2 years, I've lost 80 pounds, and Michael's been my motivation for that. And I think it's just super important to know it's okay to take time out for yourself to feel good. When I decided to take my own health into consideration and wanted to get myself healthy in order to be a better caretaker for Michael, there was a little bit of an aha moment where Michael was training for a half marathon, and as he was running, I was in a golf cart behind him with water because I couldn't keep up. I wasn't physically fit enough, and I think at that moment I realized, wow, this is kind of embarrassing. Here's my child with a lung condition who's running, and I'm riding in a golf cart with water behind him saying, hey, you need some water. So I think for me, it was sort of one of those moments where it was like, I gotta do something here. And so Michael and I together trained for my very first 5K, and we flew out to San Diego, and because why not go big, right? And so we went out to San Diego and did a 5K together. And I told Michael before the run, go ahead and run your own race, and he did, but he came back and looped around and finished the run with me, which was a really special moment. Since I've gotten involved with self-care, I feel amazing. I feel like I can handle the day or handle any news the doctors throw at us or any teenage issues that my son might come home with. Just being in a stronger place mentally and physically has given me the ability to just be a better person for the people that need me the most.